Welcome to Season 4 of the Questions With podcast, hosted by Quest Ventures, the top venture capital fund in Asia. I am your host, April Vano, and join me as we explore the dynamic startup ecosystem and business landscape in the Philippines. As we listen to thought leaders and industry experts, innovators, and entrepreneurs, we'll uncover the stories, insights, and trends across different industries shaping the future of this vibrant Southeast Asian nation. Welcome to Season 4 of the Questions With podcast, hosted by Quest Ventures, the top venture capital fund in Asia. I am your host, April Vano, and join me as we explore the dynamic startup ecosystem and business landscape in the Philippines. As we listen to thought leaders and industry experts, innovators, and entrepreneurs, we'll uncover the stories, insights, and trends across different industries shaping the future of this vibrant Southeast Asian nation. Join me today as I sit down with Ms. Emmy Delfin, a trailblazing woman in technology and government champion who's breaking barriers and making waves in the country's industry revolution. Director Emmy currently leads the ICT Industry Development Bureau of the Department of Information and Communications Technology, or DICT. In her 20 years in public service, Ms. Emmy has been passionate about creating a positive impact on the lives of Filipinos, especially those in the countryside, through the ICT industry development programs. She also leads the DICT's initiatives to move the Philippines towards becoming the global hub for high-value IT BPM services and for technology startups. She was recognized and awarded by the National ICT Confederation of the Philippines as a countryside development champion for her dedicated work in implementing nationwide initiatives. In this episode, we'll delve into her journey, challenges and triumphs, uncovering invaluable insights and inspiration along the way. Through her experiences, we'll gain valuable perspectives on the role of government and what it takes to drive innovation in order to foster a thriving innovation ecosystem. Hello, Ms. Emmy. Welcome to the Quest Ventures podcast. Can you say hello to our listeners?
Yeah. Thank you, April. Hello to our listeners. Because today is Valentine's Day, so I would like to greet everyone a happy Valentine's Day. And thank you, April, for this opportunity.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us, Ms. Emmy. I'm also very excited. We've known each other for several years now in the policy space and the programs that you have been working on in DICT. And we're very thrilled to be able to have you in this episode to learn more about the Philippines and, of course, learn more about the work that you've been doing. So maybe we get started right away and get the ball rolling. As mentioned, you've been, in public service for quite some time. 20 years is a remarkable commitment. So maybe for us to get to know you and, your journey first, right? Before we get into some of the exciting things at DICT, I'd like to, ask you what has fueled your passion for your career, especially in ICT, in industry development, and of course the work that you've been doing. What has kept you inspired all these years, Ms. Emmy?
Yeah, thank you, April. So I've been with the government for more than 26 years, so it's not just 20 years.
Wow.
I started my career at the Department of Trade and Industry. At the time, ICT, or Information and Communications Technology, used to be a special concern. Mm-hmm. So I was assigned in DTI at the Office of Special Concerns, and that ICT was part of that. In fact, actually, with my exposure there, that's when I saw firsthand. And of course, my passion for ICT development stems from that belief and its power to transform lives. So especially the rural areas in the countryside. So that was my first exposure, because at the time I was assigned to handle the BPO industry sometime in 2000. And then at the time, there was no specific government agency that handled ICT. So I was exposed to that. So that was 26 years ago. And, I saw firsthand how access to technology, or the lack of it, can make a huge difference in opportunities for individuals and communities. So the question again is, what fueled my passion for ICT development. Over those years, I've really seen the real impact, and I'm really just lucky to be going around the country, meeting these people who have embraced technology and how technology has actually transformed their lives. For example, like an online freelancer from a small town, securing international clients, and then from a startup from a province scaling globally, or a public school receiving a digital tools. So, these success stories remind me why this work matters to me. So there,
Yeah.
so I'm really motivated. That's why, for the past 26 years in government, I'm really inspired because, it's really technology. It's about making technology a great equalizer.
Indeed, it
A
is.
divider, yes. And ensuring that no Filipino is left behind because of this technology, and particularly in participating in the digital economy.
That's true, and you kind of painted a picture over the last, like you said, 20 plus years of how technology has become part of the revolution of different and creation, right, of new industries for the Philippines, providing jobs, like you said, providing opportunities, and yeah, the connectivity is the key. So
Yeah.
the more connectivity is made available to all parts of our archipelago, the more opportunities can really be provided for more Filipinos. So it's really exciting. There's a lot of things that I do want to like point out, and we've seen the birth actually of DICT, right? Because of that journey or that evolution of the industry, and you were there from the very beginning. And perhaps on that note, right, can you share some memorable moments or key achievements in your career? Just as you said, right? Like that this is work that is really creating an impact. But perhaps just to paint a picture of like what were those moments and highlights for you?
Yeah, I'd say that there were really memorable moments that because meeting these people, the stakeholders and beneficiaries. But one of the most memorable moments in my career was when I met a single mother from a remote province who had successfully transitioned. No, so she has no job, and then she joined our training. So part of the things that I do, we conceptualize this program called Rural Impact Sourcing or Digital Jobs. It's basically promoting opportunities to people in the countryside without going abroad to earn dollars. So this one, she's a single mom. She has two kids, I think, and then she was hopeless at the time. So we offered to her this program. So it's a training to become online freelancer. So so during the course of the training, after the training, was able to get a job online, and she has really successfully transitioned through to become an online freelancer. And she shared how she used to struggle to make ends meet, and after gaining the skills that we've conducted, the training that we've conducted, she started earning dollars, working for international clients from the comfort of her home. So she's also with her kids, because she's a single mom. And because of that, she was able to provide for her children. She's able to send them to school, and even help in the community. So it's really an affirmation of the things that we do and its impact. So it's not just about technology, it's about changing lives and creating opportunities, and making sure that the talents, particularly like this single mom from rural areas, can compete on a global stage. So that's one, I cannot really forget that, really. And then another proud achievement I would like to say, we have this National Confederation of the Philippines. They represent the stakeholders in the countryside, composed of, the academe, the LGUs, and the private sector. And then a few years back, they gave me that recognition as a countryside development champion. So to me, it's not just for me, but it's actually for everyone working towards the same goal of bringing digital opportunities to the provinces, and proving that technology innovation doesn't have to be confined to Metro Manila. So there, but I have a lot of memorable moments. But that lady, the mother, is really one if not the most really uh, most unforgettable and impactful moment for me as a
That,
public servant.
that's amazing and really inspiring too. And like the story or how you shared that story really creates, I guess the human factor, right? Because we talk about technology, we talk about all these like industrial revolution, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, it's really the people behind, right? The people behind and the people that are actually gaining access through all these different technological advancements. And you pointed out in your story, and I want to maybe pick your brain as well on that note, where you talked about these women that are also gaining access to these skills or these tools, and they're able to have more opportunities. I know that you're also very much involved in women economic empowerment. That's also your advocacy, and obviously this is something that can be even accelerated with the power of technology. So maybe you can share a little bit more about some of these, I don't know, opportunities or these programs and these advocacies you have in creating more inclusive and equitable sector for women in the Philippines to be part of this the tech industry.
Yeah. So I'd like to share, April, that so my role in the ICT is ICT industry development. So I head the bureau because one of the missions of the DICT is to ensure the growth and development of the ICT industry that will result to the creation of more jobs. But aside from ICT industry development, of course, we have other major mandates. I'd like to share some of them, but yeah, I think your question is really more on how we can actually empower women, as you mentioned, right? But although the programs of the DICT is not just about for women, but
Of course, yes.
yes, but there are different areas that we can actually for them. I mean, we can offer to them, particularly, for example, yes, upskilling, reskilling, ICT capability development, ICT industry development, and digital connectivity, and even, of course, providing them tools on how they can actually apply for government services without really going to, lining up physically.
So automation and
yes, yeah. But is it okay if I share with you what are the key priority areas
Oh
of
yes, please.
because I think being part of the DICT, I also need to share with your audience what are the key priority areas of the Philippine government,
That's
particularly
wonderful.
ICT. So of course, so one of the major mandates of the DICT is digital connectivity. So of course, the goal is for us to be able to bridge the digital divide by improving internet access across the country, especially in rural and underserved areas. So, for example, we have our broadband manang masa, national fiber backbone, and our free Wi-Fi for all public places in the country. And so far, I would say that some of the milestones under the digital connectivity is that we were able to deploy thousands of free Wi-Fi hotspots nationwide. So under the Free Wi-Fi for All program, helping communities, schools, and public places gain access to the internet. So that's a major mandate. Another major mandate is digital government. And of course, we have to modernize government services to be more efficient, transparent, and accessible. And through our e-government initiatives, we are able to streamline processes, right? And reduce bureaucratic inefficiencies. And one of the milestones that we have, I'm not sure if you have already your eGov PA Super app.
Yes,
So,
I do actually, especially for
great.
traveling.
Oh yes, e-travel. But aside from that, there are different other services that you can actually avail through our eGov PA Super app. So this was launched. So it's a one-stop shop platform for government for various government services, of course, making it easier for Filipinos and other, of course, investors as well, travelers to transact with the government online. And so that's the second major mandate. And the third mandate is industry development, which is my part of the role that I do in DICT. But I think I forgot to mention, April, that aside from being the ICT Industry Development Bureau Director last year, I've given the task also to become the Regional Director of Mimaropa region. So Mimaropa covers.
Where is that for those who are
So,
probably not
yes,
Filipinos
yes.
that are
So,
listening?
there are 16 regions in the country, and one of them is Mimaropa, or it used to be called 4B, but the brand now is Mimaropa. So that covers 5 provinces. So we have Occidental Mindoro, Oriental Mindoro, Romblon, Marinduque, and Palawan. So that covers the entire Mimaropa region. So that's why part of my role is I have to divide my time going to these provinces and of course taking care of the ICT industry as well. So so going back to the third mandate, which is ICT industry development. Again, part of my role is to bring ICT industry opportunities to the countryside. And I would say that because we talk about we talk about development and promotion of the Philippine startup ecosystem, and that's actually our common mission. So one of the milestones I would like to also highlight is that with the passage of the law called the Innovative Startup Act, the DICT, we have a program called the Philippine Startup Development Program, and it's actually now in full swing, supporting local startups with funding, mentorship, and networking opportunities. So and of course, our Digital Cities program as well in terms of bringing BPO jobs to the countryside. And right now, because of course we are advocating Web3, emerging tech like AI, blockchain, IoT. So those are the things that we do as part of our ICT industry development mandate. And another major mandate, as I'm not sure if the people are aware, that it's also ICT capability development, upskilling, reskilling, because we need to equip Filipinos, aside from, of course, agencies like DepEd, SHED, TESTA. Of course, we have to equip Filipinos with digital skills to ensure that they can participate in the digital economy. So the programs are for, Filipinos who have no knowledge on digital literacy. That's why we provide basic digital literacy programs for freelancers, for BPO workers, and even grassroots communities. As I mentioned, that milestone or the impactful initiative that we've been implementing is promoting rural impact sourcing or rural jobs, online jobs in the countryside. And lastly, another major mandate, of course, we have to strengthen cybersecurity measures to protect citizens and businesses, while also, of course, promoting the use of technology in different transactions. So cybersecurity and data privacy, of course, is a major initiative or mandate of the DICT. And one milestone that I can share is that we have this National Cybersecurity Plan 2022 to 2028. So that's in place. It's a roadmap. It's a master plan to enhance the country's defenses against cyber threats. So yeah,
indeed, that's definitely something that everybody talks about now, especially once you're online in the Philippines. There are those, I would say, more vulnerable people that are on their cell phones, and they could easily be targeted. And I think, if I may interject, right? There were different areas and mandates that you shared, and might have some time for us to look into them more closely. But from cybersecurity and even AI, I think the end of the year last year, the ICT, you had that sort of roadshow or policy conversations across the country that I even joined one session, and it was really opening up, right, the future of AI, or at least the ICT, like how this industry is already transforming into its next phase, and how do we prepare for that, whether it's skilling, reskilling, and also creating more, how do you call this, more awareness, right, for the public, but also to professionals. So I wanted to maybe dive into what you said in terms of reskilling or even upskilling, but perhaps on a broader sense, education and the skills that we need for the future, as they say, right, like skills of the future. We are in the what they call the intelligent age already. So you said that you work closely with the education ministry or a department. Like, what are the challenges that you're seeing now, and what kind of programs do you want to push for, especially for Filipino talent to embrace technology, but also to be equipped?
Yeah. So I would also like to share that in terms of making sure that our talents are not left behind, that they'll be able to be competitive in the global sphere. Last year we launched the Philippine Skills Framework for the ICT industry. That includes skills framework for analytics and artificial intelligence. And then we also have our skills framework for health and information management services, even for contact center, for software development and IT, and even our global in-house center. So, the frameworks were actually crafted by the industry themselves, while it's us, the DICT, that of course took care of the funding in the development of those frameworks. But it's actually the private sector, the industry, that crafted the entire framework to make sure that, when educational institutions and agencies like the Department of Education, the Commission on Higher Education, and the Technical Education Skills Development Authority will be able to craft relevant courses and curricula to make sure that our graduates will be able to land jobs, and that right away there's no need for retraining, because those are the relevant skills and trainings that they've enrolled and implemented because of that particular framework. And we've been continuously advocating that, and it's good that it's like whole of nation approach, because when we talk of development, it's not just the role of the government, but we talk about other stakeholders and players like the academia and the private sector.
That's absolutely correct. It needs to be everyone has a role. No one agency or no one sector can do this by themselves. So sorry, you were gonna say something more on that note.
No, so that's in partnership with industry associations like in DICT and other government agencies as well. We always work closely with the sector and the associations that sector represents, right?
Correct.
So I am talking of the IBPAP, that's the umbrella association of all the BPO companies in the Philippines, and Analytics Association of the Philippines. So these are really the sectors that are really pushing for talent development, upskilling, and reskilling. So we're just there, like we just enable. But at the end of the day, it's us, all of us, working together to make sure that our talents will not be left behind, right?
Indeed. I mean, and you said it also, right? Like the closer that the industry and, let's say, the academe work together. So, it's like market driven, right? The skill sets and the training. And I know we have a long way to go. That's probably another podcast episode. But, it's interesting to see more and more, I guess, synergies, right? And I think the call for industry to really be, those champions, right? And to actively play a role even in the education and in the development of our talent pool. I also strongly believe, like you said, right, the impact that you're making on, let's say, Filipinos. I think that's definitely like the key, the progress that we want to see and we want to create is, the lives of the Filipinos. So thank you for that. And maybe, as you said about technology talent and Filipinos landing jobs and being actively part of the digital economy. The other mandate or the other initiatives that you shared just now was, developing or fostering the startup innovation ecosystem. And like you said, we actually crossed paths, you and I, through the policy development of, the Philippine Startup Act, and seeing it being implemented now for the last few years. And it's really interesting to see the growth and development of the sector. But I'm very interested in the perspective, right, for you in DICT, and your role in that. And perhaps you can jumpstart, right? Because one of the flagship, I would say, programs you have is the Startup Challenge. And you actually start in the academe, right? Because these are the young people. Can you share a little bit more about that, and maybe further on, like what you see is the role of DICT for startup development?
Yeah, so thank you, April. Even before we became the ICT, since 2007, when I joined the then Commission on ICT, supporting, promoting Filipino startups is really one of the key initiatives of the government. No, from then Commission on ICT, then we became part of the Department of Science and Technology, now the ICT. So for the longest time, we've been encouraging Filipinos that, aside from the option to become like employees, we're encouraging them, to become employers, like using technology to become entrepreneurs or technopreneurs. So part of our role is doing a lot of advocacy. So going around the country, partnering with our, stakeholders in the academia and the private sector. So doing like from basic like Startup 101, how to become a startup, how to develop an idea, how to pitch an idea, how to develop a minimum viable product. So we've been doing that for the longest time, and I think we have almost covered major regions all over the country. And and then after that, of course, we also need to capacitate their mentors, right? The teachers. So we have a separate program for that, capacitating teachers to become mentors. And we've partnered with, I think, hundreds and hundreds of schools all over the country, teaching, capacitating their teachers to also have that, the idea of encouraging their students to become entrepreneurs to technology. And so with the passage of the Innovative Startup Act several years ago, our program, from just, advocacy initiative, it has become a full swing program. Because what we did was, together with the other agencies, Department of Trade and Industry and the Department of Science and Technology, because we're the three lead agencies in terms of promoting, implementing one Philippine startup program for the entire country. So what we did was to really map out the journey of a startup. So the three agencies agreed that each of us, to be able not to duplicate each other's initiatives, we've mapped out the entire journey. So for the DICT, our role is in the development stage, in the early stage. So that's why we've been doing the startup competition for college students. We have our grant fund as seed funding.
These are for new ventures or new ideas,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Not necessarily.
Yeah, for new ideas, as long as they have their proof of concept. So that's part of our funding. So when, if they're ready to scale up, or even in that middle part, so that's the Department of Science and Technology, because they have a bigger funding or grant for that. And if it's about scaling already globally, that's the role now of the Department of Trade and Industry. So, but going back to the role of the DICT, that's why part of the things that I mentioned is that, advocating, encouraging students, Filipinos, to become entrepreneurs through these trainings. And then we also have our acceleration program, particularly bringing that to the countryside, because, one of the challenges I see in the Philippines is that we lack local accelerators in the countryside.
That's true. It's very much concentrated here in Metro Manila.
So that's why we conceptualized that program called Step Up. So it's basically a local accelerator program in the different parts of the country, particularly in areas where the startup ecosystem is already thriving.
Yeah, that's definitely something that is like, I guess, the hunger in the regions. is really calling for more opportunities for them to be part of the ecosystem. And yeah, I have seen it. I have been also part of some of these programs, and it's great to see that students and young people, right, or young entrepreneurs are able to engage and also connect, right, with one another. I think, as you mentioned about regional development and connecting, let's say, underserved communities, or at least I would say, because we are an archipelago, it seems that everything is quite spread out. But with technology, it allows everyone to stay connected and be involved, and hopefully gain access, right, to the grants that you just mentioned, if not connecting with other mentors and other, I would say, stakeholders that can help them with their ventures, and maybe even investors, right? So I think that's amazing that it's a proactive, I would say, mandate and role for you to reach, right, to all the corners, all the islands of the Philippines. So very commendable work for DICT. And maybe also, like, to kind of build on that, you mentioned about the 3 key agencies coming together and really working towards that. Do you have any, I would say, vision for I guess the next decade or so? I think, like, if I remember correctly, Miss Emmy, we were, I guess, in the same room or same conversations before the law was even passed, right? To have however many startups and however many industry players for the Philippines. And I think we were looking at, was it $2 billion in investments for startups, and we're already achieving these, right? It's already we've already unlocked the potential of the ecosystem. So what is next, or what do you see, right, is the future? What would you like to see, right, in this in the next few years for the Philippines, I'd say, innovation ecosystem?
Okay, thank you. I'm not supposed to share this yet, but okay.
The tease.
This is my I told you this is my first podcast ever.
Oh yes, we're very happy to have you.
So anyway, so we talk about the Philippine startup ecosystem, and 10 years ago, in 2015, we launched the first ever digital startup roadmap.
I remember that.
2015 and beyond, and so remember that. So that's 10 years already. So in fact, so my team, the DICT, my startup team right now, we're actually we have this ongoing talks with the startup community champion, who actually put together the first startup roadmap. In coming up with like a 10-year review. How are we now after that? So in that roadmap, I'm not, you've seen that there were several action plans stipulated in the roadmap, and I think a lot, if not all of them, have been actually been already I would say implemented or delivered, although there are several that are still things that still need to be done, to be pursued. So what we're trying to do now is really coming up with a 10-year review. Where are we now in terms of the startup ecosystem?
That's
and because because of the Innovative Startup Act, there's a steering committee composed of the 3 agencies, DTI, DOS, and DICT. Of course, we have to work as a team. So we have already actually started our strategic planning last year. But the goal really is, it's about now for us to be able to say, okay, what will be the next? So what will be our goals? What will be our targets in the next 3 to 5 years? So it's really about coming up with another set of another
milestones,
for the entire Philippine startup ecosystem. But for now, what we will do is hopefully in the next few months we'll be able to put together that document or review. So what have we done during the past 10 years after launching that startup roadmap for the startup community by the startup community. Remember that that phrase there, that tagline there. So we have a regular meeting with the steering committee members, and of course we're hopeful that hopefully this year we'll be able to put together what should be the next milestones for the Philippine startup ecosystem. And of course,
All
we need
right.
the participation of
We'll
partners and
we'll
stakeholders.
stay tuned for that report or that review,
Oh
and
yeah,
also the
yes.
look ahead for
Because we reached out to you, April, because we
yes.
need to do some, interviews and insights, inputs, and recommendations from, from the key pillars, including you in the startup ecosystem.
Well, it's exciting. I mean, like you said, it's a 10-year look back, and then how
Yeah.
do we look forward also into the next decade? But I mean, thank you for teasing that. But I was really just asking you for your personal, like dream, I would say, or yeah, maybe
Yeah,
if you'd still like to share, like for you personally, like what's like one thing you'd like to see either 5 years from now, if we had another conversation, you'd like to be able to see in the Philippines or happen in the Philippines? Is there
Well,
anything come to
yeah,
mind?
these are really dreams for the country, like for the Philippine startup ecosystem. Right now, I think we have less than 1,000 startups all over the country.
Mhm.
But of course, we need that, validation of our data, of our baseline. But I hope that we can double that in the next 3 years, 5 years,
Mhm. Mhm.
and we can have more unicorns in the country, right?
More
So
success stories, of
more
course.
success stories, of course, aside from unicorns, but really more success stories, particularly successful startups from the different parts of the country, not only here, our Filipino startups in Metro Manila. So those
That's
are the things
good.
that really I want to see and to dream
Yeah.
for
Perhaps, yeah, perhaps on that one, we're able to really count, right? Like, top three, not just in the Philippines, but let's say top three, Luzon,
yeah,
Visayas, Mindanao. Those are the three major regions in the country, right? So it's really making sure that there is that inclusive development and growth, and that funnels in, the investments, the job growth, and as I mentioned to you, like even with connecting or like the synergies across different stakeholders and pillars. I think we'd like to see that even strengthened, not just on a national level, but on the countryside or on the regional level. I mean, that would be my broad, if I can, I would say, summarize what you just shared. Like the broad take is really like the regions also gaining successes through to the help of these programs being implemented now. So that's really exciting. I do hope we can have that conversation and say, yes, we did it also.
or yes, yeah.
It's been delivered. But maybe as we kind of wrap up the conversation, I know there's so much more to kind of to delve into. Perhaps as a take back as well, right? In your story as a woman in tech, or a woman in government that is championing technology and innovation. What is, I'm sure you've talked to entrepreneurs that are also women, and other champions in the field. You have any advice that you'd like to share, or some key insights so that we can keep going forward and really pursuing this, whether as a career, as an entrepreneurship venture, and be a woman in tech?
Yeah, thank you, April. I'm actually glad that more women I've met, I've encountered in several ICT events, particularly, and even freelancing and tech or startup events. So my advice for young women, particularly entering the field in ICT field, is simple. I have three advice for them, three sets of advice. First is for them to be bold, to take up space, and I have to tell them to own their voice tech, because we know it's still a male-dominated industry in many areas, but that shouldn't discourage our women to participate. So for them to speak up, to take on the challenges, and for them not to be afraid to lead, because they have to know that they belong in this space just as much as anyone else. So I'd like to tell them to step out of their comfort zone, and then, of course, apply their leadership roles, present their ideas confidently, and actively participate in industry events and discussions. And then the second advice is for them to be curious. So for them to keep learning and staying ahead as technology evolves rapidly, and for them to continuous learnings is a key to staying relevant. So for them to invest in skills that will future-proof their career, whether in AI, in cybersecurity, blockchain, or in any other fields, particularly now in Web3. So, of course, for them to take advantage of free, in DICT, we have a lot of free trainings, even free certifications. They can actually participate and, of course, attend tech conferences and find mentors who can actually guide them. So for them to never stop learning. And then third is for them to be relentless. So, there are a lot of challenges that they might face, biases or feeling of self-doubt, but that should not define them, right? So they have to keep pushing forward, and you have to remember that resilience is one of the most valuable traits in tech and leadership, and you know that, April, right? So they have to surround themselves with strong support system, like, mentors, women mentors, peers and communities that, uplift women in tech. So they have to look for opportunities to mentor others as well. So, because we know, right, that women bring unique perspectives and, innovation leadership. So we need more women like them to be in this field to shape the future of technology. So yeah, you should have to go for it, because they have to know that they are capable more than they think. Because the industry, the women, the industry, these women actually need them. So there. So
Thank you so much, Ms. Emmy.
So be bold,
I think that was
be relentless, right?
correct. Be bold, be curious, and be relentless. Indeed, and I think that's also what you live by. I know that, and I've seen that, and looking up to someone like you that has been relentless in your work with this. I would say very challenging, right? Challenging times, and how this industry has kind of like really revolutionized the world and our country. So I think being part of that and making sure, right, like our voices, right, whether it's the voices of women or the voices of those in the countryside is heard, and we're able to connect the dots and be able to I would say drive forward together. So thank you so much, Miss Emmy. We really learned a lot about you, but also about the ICT and the Philippines, and the promise, right, of having such a great, I would say a great country that's really ripe for more innovation and more, I would say, brilliant ideas, right? And hopefully these things can really transpire and also, make, continuous growth and continuous impact across the board. So thank you so much, Miss Emmy. We really appreciate you sharing your time with us. Really looking forward for all those things coming up this year. So we will definitely stay tuned and also share with our community. And yes, so everyone listening to this episode, thank you so much for tuning in. We have today questions with Emmy Lou Delfin. So for more episodes like this, be sure to hit the follow button on whichever platform you're listening from. Thank you again. I am your host, April Ong Vano. Till next time.